Welcome to the journey to conquer the Himalayas. If there is a place where the earth touches the sky, it is the Himalayas, a land of ancient monasteries, towering peaks, and stories that transcend time. At the summits, where the air thins and the wind sings like a prayer, these ranges keep rising, continuing a tale that began millions of years ago, when two continents collided and thrust the ancient seabed into the clouds. From that upheaval, the Himalayas were born, not merely a mountain range, but a world suspended between heaven and earth. Stretching for roughly 2,500 kilometers across 5 countries: Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bhutan, and Tibet. This realm guards 8 of the world's 14 highest peaks, including Everest, the mountain that pushes human limits. Amid deep valleys and stone deserts, prayer flags ride the wind, monasteries cling to cliffs, and sacred summits like Kailash remain untrodden out of reverence. Together, they form a living kingdom where faith, nature, and time flow as one. Now, join us as we set out to encounter the Himalayas' most awe-inspiring wonders, where every frame carries the breath of eternity. Before we begin, let's see if you know this. Which city is known as the gateway to the Himalayas? Tiger's Nest, Bhutan. Hidden on a steep cliff nearly 3,000 meters high, where the air grows thin and the horizon blends into clouds, this monastery seems to float between earth and sky. According to legend, in the 8th century, Guru Rinpoche flew here on the back of a tiger, leaving behind a sacred tale that continues to draw pilgrims from around the world after centuries. The path leading to Tiger's Nest winds through deep pine forests, where prayer flags flutter in the wind, carrying people's wishes toward the heavens. At the final stretch, a suspension bridge spans a 900-meter gorge, leading to temple halls adorned with murals depicting deities and demons. Inside, monks still perform ancient rituals amid drifting incense and the deep rhythm of drums, echoing like the heartbeat of time within this sacred sanctuary. Thimphu, Bhutan. In the heart of modern Bhutan, Thimphu moves at a calm, unhurried pace, remaining the only capital in the world without traffic lights. It blends the rhythm of tradition with the present, preserving its sense of peace amid constant change. From above, the giant Buddha Dordonma rises proudly at 51 meters tall, gilded in gold and bronze, housing more than 100,000 smaller Buddha statues within, a sacred symbol of compassion and protection. Not far away stands Tachicho Dzong, a structure that tells two intertwined stories of the kingdom. By day, the fortress serves as the administrative center of government, but at dusk, it transforms into a spiritual sanctuary for about 350 Buddhist monks. During religious festivals, the central courtyard of the Dzong comes alive with vibrant cham dances, as monks wear ornate masks and traditional robes to reenact ancient Buddhist legends, turning the fortress into a mystical stage framed by mountains and forests. White walls stretch along the Thimphu River, while towering spires rise over the valley, painting a scene both majestic and tranquil. Dochula Pass, Bhutan. Perched at an elevation of around 3,100 meters, where clouds brush against the earth, Dochula Pass appears as a sacred circle of 108 white chortens arranged in perfect harmony, symbolizing the boundary between two worlds. On one side lies the capital, Thimphu. On the other, the lush subtropical valley of Punakha unfolds. On clear days, the eastern Himalayas reveal themselves in magnificent splendor, their snow-capped peaks glistening beneath the sunlight. Pilgrims walk clockwise around the stupas, offering simple gifts such as yak butter and rice, as expressions of devotion and gratitude. Mountain winds carry the soft echoes of prayers, blending with the flutter of prayer flags dancing in the air. In this sacred stillness, time itself seems to pause, leaving only peace and divinity drifting over the mountain pass. Punakha Dzong, Bhutan. Where the Mo-Chu and Pho-Chu rivers meet, Punakha Dzong rises majestically as one of Bhutan's most revered spiritual symbols. In the year 1637, architects chose this site for its naturally elevated position between the waters, creating a fortress both grand and strategically defensive. Since then, it has safeguarded Bhutan's most sacred Buddhist relics, preserved with devotion through the centuries. In spring, the courtyard bursts into a sea of violet jacaranda blossoms, casting an air of peace and enchantment. Each day, monks quietly cross the ancient wooden bridge to perform sacred rituals, maintaining the tranquil rhythm of monastic life. Stone stairways lead to solemn halls where golden Buddha statues shine above worshippers, while the central temple enshrines the relics of Yamdrok, the spiritual leader and founder of Bhutan, making this fortress the very heart and soul of the kingdom. Sikkim and Gangtok, India. This small Indian state unfolds like a balcony resting against the Himalayas, facing Kanchenjunga, the third highest mountain in the world. For centuries, Sikkim remained an independent kingdom until 1975, still preserving its peaceful spirit amid the grandeur of nature. Its dense, misty forests are home to the rare red panda, while the valleys are filled with the scent of wild orchids and cardamom, a prized spice cultivated across the region and sold in the lively local markets. Stretching along the ridges, Gangtok, the capital of Sikkim, exudes a vibrant yet harmonious charm. He Lal Bazaar buzzes with traders and colors, while nearby Rumtek Monastery continues to uphold the Kagyu Buddhist tradition, within a complex reminiscent of the grandeur of ancient Tibet. A cable car glides across the city sky, linking its neighborhoods. And from above, Gangtok reveals a panorama of rooftops cascading down the mountainsides, a living tapestry both dynamic and serene beneath the clouds of the Himalayas. Darjeeling, India. At an elevation of about 2,050 meters, this hill town is known as the tea capital of the world, a precious remnant of British colonial India. The miniature steam train, in operation since 1881 and recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site in 1999, still runs along the mountain railway, serving as an enduring symbol of the city. In the old colonial center, Chaurasta Square continues to mark the passage of time, surrounded by British-era buildings. Meanwhile, the Tibetan Gum Monastery safeguards the statue of Maitreya Buddha, a symbol of hope for refugees who found sanctuary here after the Tibetan exodus. Finally, the narrow streets blend British heritage with Himalayan culture, filled with the fragrance of tea, incense smoke, and freshly steamed dumplings, evoking a timeless, serene Darjeeling suspended between past and present. Gangotri, India. From the Gangotri Glacier, At an elevation of nearly 4,000 meters, the Ganges River begins its journey, flowing from the Himalayas across India for about 2,000 kilometers before merging with the Bay of Bengal. Each year, thousands of pilgrims travel to the village of Gangotri to bathe in its sacred waters and offer prayers at the temple dedicated to the goddess Ganga. In Hindu belief, this river is revered as a deity, possessing the divine power to purify the soul and wash away the sins of humankind. Rishikesh and Haridwar, India. These two cities rest at the boundary between the Himalayas and the plains, where the Ganges slows its pace and begins its gentle descent. Rishikesh is renowned for its hundreds of yoga schools and ashrams, including the one where the Beatles came to learn meditation in the 1960s. Each evening, the suspension bridge of Lakshman Jhula fills with people gathering for the Aarti ceremony, as countless lamps are set afloat, shimmering on the river's surface. Further downstream lies Haridwar, literally the gateway to God, where every 12 years a grand pilgrimage draws millions of devotees to bathe in the sacred waters. Each day, the stone steps leading to the river are crowded with pilgrims who immerse the ashes of their loved ones, praying for their souls to be freed from the cycle of rebirth. Shimla, India. This ancient hill town was once a refuge for the British escaping India's summer heat. Sitting at an altitude of about 2,200 meters, it remains wrapped in a veil of mist for most of the year. The historic railway built by the British passes through 102 tunnels carved into the rock, creating one of the most spectacular train journeys in the country. The main street still preserves its colonial charm, while playful monkeys roam freely across the rooftops, claiming them as their own. At the city's highest point stands a Hindu temple, where a giant sacred statue overlooks the deep green valley. Below, the bustling traditional market bursts with color, as the aroma of tea and local spices fills the misty air. If you love exploring the world's most magnificent places, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to join us on the next adventure across new and wondrous lands. Manali and Rohtang Pass, India. One of India's most breathtaking mountain roads, with more than 50 hairpin bends winding into the clouds, divides two contrasting worlds, the lush green valley of Manali and the arid highlands of Ladakh. Rohtang Pass serves as a gateway between these realms, where snow remains year-round, once traveled by traders and pilgrims for centuries, linking India with Tibet. In old Manali, wooden temples over 500 years old still stand strong, echoing the ancient legends of India. Not far away, waterfalls and natural hot springs rich in sulfur cascade and bubble amid the forested hills. Life here remains rooted in mountain farming and traditional herding, now coexisting alongside tourism. Each summer, shepherds guide their flocks across the Rohtang Pass, retracing the ancient trails carved deep into the history of the Himalayas. Spiti Valley, India. Hidden deep within the Himalayas, Spiti Valley holds the ancient story of the Earth. Marine fossils dating back 100 million years found here prove that this land once lay beneath the ocean floor. Perched on a rocky hill over 4,000 meters high stands Key Monastery, a sacred fortress built more than 1,000 years ago. Here, Buddhist monks continue to preserve ancient scriptures inside dimly lit rooms, illuminated only by traditional butter lamps. In this remote mountain region lie some of the highest inhabited villages on Earth, isolated for half the year when winter drives temperatures down to minus 30 degrees Celsius, or about minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. The Spiti River carves its way through the valley, cutting deep gorges between the peaks and shaping one of the most dramatic and awe-inspiring landscapes in the Himalayas. Leh-Ladakh, India. As the capital of the ancient Ladakh region, Leh is known as Little Tibet for its distinctive Buddhist heritage. Thixi Monastery dominates the cityscape with its 12 tiers, built in homage to the Dalai Lama's Potala Palace in Tibet. Not far away, the 9-story Le Palace from the 17th century overlooks the city below, while Lamayuru Monastery, one of Ladakh's oldest, clings to a cliff at an elevation of about 3,500 meters, or roughly 11,485 feet. The entire region stretches across desert valleys and Himalayan passes rising above 5,000 meters, or around 16,400 feet, where the air is so thin that vegetation can hardly grow. Only the barren brown mountains remain, shaping the stark yet mystical beauty of this otherworldly land. Zanskar Valley, India. This remote valley remains isolated for 2/3 of the year, as winter turns the Zanskar River into a natural highway of ice, allowing monks to travel between ancient monasteries. During this time, temperatures can drop to minus 30 degrees Celsius, or about -22 degrees Fahrenheit. Locals store barley and yak butter during the summer months to survive the harshest cold. When spring arrives and the ice begins to melt, the valley comes back to life. Herds of yak are guided to high pastures, where fresh grass glistens beneath the bright Himalayan sun. Nubra Valley, India. Crossing the Dochula Pass, one of the highest motorable passes in the world, reveals the Nubra Valley, where two humped camels wander gracefully across sand dunes at an elevation of about 3,000 meters, or roughly 9,850 feet above sea level. For more than 350 years, Diskit Monastery has watched over the valley, while blooming apricot trees in the villages create a lush oasis amid the high-altitude desert. In the past, caravans along the Silk Road once stopped here to rest and collect water before braving the treacherous Himalayan passes. The Shyok River winds through muted gray mountains, while pale sand dunes contrast against barren peaks rising to 6,000 meters, or nearly 19,685 feet, forming a landscape both harsh and dreamlike in its beauty. Pangong Lake, India. This saltwater lake stretches for about 134 kilometers, lying along the border between India and Tibet. Its surface shifts colors throughout the day, and in winter, the entire lake freezes as salt crystals shimmer beneath the sunlight. Pangong serves as a vital resting point for migratory birds traveling between Central Asia and India. Along its grassy shores, the Changpa nomads herd their massive yaks, animals perfectly adapted to the harsh, wind-swept life of this high-altitude plateau. Mount Everest, Nepal. The highest mountain on Earth rises to 8,848 meters, or about 29,029 feet, straddling the border between Nepal and Tibet. At an elevation of 5,364 meters, or roughly 17,598 feet, the base camp marks the starting point for every ascent, where climbers spend months acclimating to the extreme altitude. Since 1953, when the first two explorers reached the summit, thousands have attempted to repeat their remarkable feat. To get there, climbers must cross the Khumbu Glacier, a shifting river of ice that constantly forms deep, dangerous crevasses. At this height, the air is so thin that even breathing becomes a challenge. From March to May, The base camp bursts into color with hundreds of tents, as climbers wait for the perfect window to begin their ascent toward the roof of the world. Khumbu Valley, Nepal. The world's highest inhabited valley stretches like a natural corridor leading toward Mount Everest, dotted with ancient Sherpa villages clinging to the Himalayan slopes. Along this sacred route, local communities preserve traditions passed down for thousands of years, while stone houses and carved memorials reflect a culture shaped by the harsh realities of mountain life. Caravans of Tibetan yaks still travel these ancient trade routes, linking remote settlements and maintaining the centuries-old connection between Tibet and Nepal. Here, the Tengbochi Monastery stands at the perfect vantage point to admire the world's highest peak. Each morning, Buddhist monks begin their prayers as the first rays of sunlight illuminate the snowy summits surrounding the valley. Before we continue our journey, here's a quick question for you. Which animal is considered a symbol of strength and a vital source of livelihood for the Himalayan people? Langtang Valley, Nepal. This valley has been slowly recovering since the devastating earthquake of 2015, when a massive avalanche once destroyed the entire region. Villages have been rebuilt, roads restored, and pilgrims have begun returning to this sacred land once more. Across the valley, Tibetan yaks and mules graze along the high slopes, sharing their habitat with the elusive snow leopard. A vast glacier feeds a series of sacred lakes where devotees immerse themselves in the icy waters to purify their souls. At Kyanjin Gompa Monastery, the sound of chanting and ancient rituals echoes through the mountains, as monks continue to preserve the spiritual traditions of Buddhism amid the serene silence of the Himalayas. Kathmandu Valley, Nepal. Resting at an altitude of about 1,400 meters, or roughly 4,593 feet, the valley is surrounded by towering peaks that rise to 8,000 meters, or around 26,247 feet. Here, Hindu temples and Buddhist stupas stand side by side, many built when Europe was still in the Middle Ages. On the bustling streets, the sounds of rickshaws and motorbikes blend with the pulse of the city, while at Durbar Square, pigeons perch atop 17th century statues. Each morning, devotees light butter lamps before the gods as monastery bells ring through the air, mingling with the hum of traffic and the scent of incense. the earthquake of 2015 once shattered many of its ancient temples. The restoration continues with quiet determination, breathing life back into Kathmandu's timeless spirit beneath layers of dust and history. Pokhara and Phewa Lake, Nepal. Nepal's most beloved tourist city rests along the shores of Phewa Lake, where the still waters reflect the majestic Annapurna Range. Beneath the surface lie ancient submerged temples, while at the lake's center, on a small island, stands the Barahi Temple, reachable only by boat during early morning ceremonies. Local fishermen continue their age-old traditions, casting nets as paragliders soar above, carried by warm air currents rising from the valley below. On the hill overlooking the city, the World Peace Pagoda stands serenely, built with materials brought from nations once scarred by conflict such as Japan and Sri Lanka, a shining symbol of peace and unity in the heart of the Himalayas. Annapurna Circuit, Nepal. Stretching 230 kilometers, or about 143 miles. The Annapurna Circuit begins in the tropical plains at an altitude of 800 meters, or roughly 2,625 feet, and ascends to the icy heights of 5,416 meters, or about 17,769 feet. Along the trail, local ethnic groups carry goods across suspension bridges that span deep gorges, while in the stone-built villages, travelers are welcomed with traditional butter tea. The route passes through diverse forests, home to rare species such as the red panda. Amid these breathtaking landscapes, remote Tibetan-style villages remain frozen in time, preserving their ancient traditions in the heart of the Himalayas. Muktinath Temple, Nepal. At an altitude of about 3,800 meters, or roughly 12,467 feet, Muktinath Temple stands as a rare place where Hinduism and Buddhism have coexisted in harmony for centuries. Within its courtyard, 108 bowl-shaped waterspouts pour icy streams where devotees bathe despite the freezing air to cleanse their spirits. Beside the temple stands a grand statue of Buddha draped in orange ribbons, gazing toward the snow-covered peaks, a symbol of meditation and boundless compassion. Here, Buddhist monks and Hindu priests perform their rituals side by side in a shared sacred space, embodying the enduring spirit of tolerance that has defined the Himalayas for generations. Chitwan National Park, Nepal. At the point where the Himalayas end, the vast jungles of Chitwan begin, a sanctuary spanning 932 square kilometers, or about 360 square miles. Here, Indian rhinoceroses wade across the Rapti River with their single distinctive horn. Bengal tigers hunt silently through the night, and elephants carve paths through the forest for other animals to follow. In the rivers, ancient and extremely rare gharial crocodiles continue to dwell in quiet waters. Park rangers patrol on elephant back, and thanks to their tireless protection, the rhino population has made a remarkable recovery, rising from 100 to 645 individuals, a testament to Nepal's enduring dedication to wildlife conservation. Namche Bazaar, Nepal. Perched on a horseshoe-shaped slope at an altitude of 3,440 meters, or roughly 11,286 feet, Namche Bazaar is known as the Gateway to Everest. The village offers breathtaking views of Himalayan giants like Everest, Lhotse, and Ama Dablam. In the past, it thrived as a bustling trading hub where Sherpa merchants exchanged goods with Tibetan traders. After 1953, when Everest was first conquered, Namche became a vital stop for climbers from around the world. At the heart of village life is the lively Saturday market, filled with local produce and traditional crafts. Despite the rise of tourism, the Sherpa people continue to uphold their Buddhist faith and deep spiritual bond with the sacred mountains, just as their ancestors once did. Potala Palace and Jokhang Temple, Tibet. At an altitude of about 3,700 meters, or roughly 12,139 feet, the Potala Palace rises over Lhasa like a man-made mountain. Behind its 5-meter-thick walls, or about 16 feet, lie 1,000 rooms, 10,000 shrines, and more than 200,000 statues, forming the greatest treasure of Tibetan Buddhist art. To build this architectural wonder, 7,000 workers and 1,500 artisans carried massive wooden beams up the sacred hill. The walls, painted with pigments made from crushed gemstones, absorb the warmth of the sun to withstand the bitter cold of the plateau. Each day, hundreds of pilgrims perform the Kora, a sacred circuit around the palace, bowing and praying in a ritual that unites body and spirit. Not far away in Lhasa stands Jokhang Temple, home to a revered 7th century statue of the Buddha brought by a Chinese princess. Here, pilgrims light incense, chant prayers, and circle the temple, continuing a sacred tradition that has endured for thousands of years. Mount Kailash, Tibet. Standing at an altitude of 6,638 meters, or about 21,778 feet. Mount Kailash in western Tibet is revered by 4 major religions. Pilgrims walk a 52-kilometer, or roughly 32-mile, circuit around the mountain to seek spiritual enlightenment. The journey crosses high mountain passes where the thin air makes every breath a challenge. To this day, no one has ever climbed to its summit, out of deep respect for the local faith that holds this mountain sacred beyond human conquest. Yamdrok Lake, Tibet. One of the highest lakes in the world, Yamdrok stretches for about 72 kilometers, or roughly 45 miles, and according to local legend, its shape resembles a coiling dragon. Scattered across its turquoise waters are small islands, while along the shores, nomadic herders lead their yak herds to graze on the lush highland meadows. The lake also serves as a vital resting point for migratory birds traveling between Central Asia and India. During the 5 long months of winter, its frozen surface becomes a natural passage connecting remote villages across the icy Tibetan plateau. Cho Oyu, Tibet. The 6th highest mountain on Earth, Cho Oyu hides massive glaciers beneath its icy slopes, moving slowly like frozen rivers. The Sherpa people, renowned Highlanders, traverse these glaciers to transport supplies for mountaineering expeditions. Frequent avalanches reshape the mountain slopes each year, while powerful winds lift fine snow into the air, forming soft white clouds that swirl around the peak, a breathtaking spectacle of the eternal Himalayan winter. Namtso Lake, Tibet. At an altitude of 4,718 meters, or about 15,479 feet, Namtso is regarded as the highest saltwater lake on Earth. Nomadic Drokpa herders move alongside their yak herds across the grasslands that encircle the lake, where salt crystals shimmer on the shores under the bright sunlight. During winter, when the surface freezes solid, pilgrims walk across the ice to reach 5 sacred islands at the lake's center, continuing a centuries-old spiritual tradition of the Tibetan highlands. Hunza Valley, Pakistan. In northern Pakistan lies an ancient valley surrounded by some of the highest peaks on Earth. Terraced fields curve along the slopes, supported by centuries-old stone walls, while a network of irrigation channels carries glacial water to nourish the fertile land. Ancient stone forts still stand as reminders of the time when local rulers controlled trade routes linking China and India. The main river has carved deep gorges into the mountains, spanned by suspension bridges connecting villages on both sides. Among them, the Hussaini Bridge is famed as one of the most dangerous in the world, a fragile wooden walkway held by ropes, swaying high above the fierce waters of the Hunza River. Nanga Parbat, Pakistan. The 9th highest mountain in the world, Nanga Parbat is famed for its towering cliffs that rise nearly 4,000 meters, or about 13,125 feet, forming the highest vertical wall on Earth. A massive glacier, stretching 15 kilometers, or roughly 9 miles, flows along its majestic slopes. Mountaineers have charted 8 different routes to the summit, yet the mountain remains tied to one of the most tragic histories in climbing. Its sheer size creates its own weather system, where fierce storms can linger for weeks. Villages nestled at its base live in rhythm with nature, where the first light of dawn takes nearly an hour to descend from the summit to the peaceful valleys below. Fairy Meadows, Pakistan. At the foot of Nanga Parbat lies a high-altitude meadow accessible only by one of Pakistan's most dangerous mountain roads. This lush green expanse sits beneath the mountain known to climbers as the Killer Mountain for its extreme peril and harsh conditions. Glaciers slide down to the edge of the meadow, where Gujar herders bring their flocks during the summer months. Amid this serene landscape, the only sounds that break the silence are the distant roar of avalanches and the gentle flow of glacial streams weaving through the emerald grass. Rakaposhi, Pakistan. Like a colossal pyramid of ice, Rakaposhi rises majestically above the Hunza Valley. The glaciers here plunge to depths of nearly 3,000 meters, or about 9,850 feet, where farmers cultivate crops amid rocky slopes and agile mountain goats climb steep cliffs with ease. The mountain acts as a barrier against the cold northern winds, creating a warmer microclimate that allows apricot trees and other fruits to flourish at surprising altitudes. When summer arrives, Waki herders lead their livestock up into the high pastures, continuing the ancient rhythm of life in this awe-inspiring landscape. Khunjerab Pass, Pakistan. This is the highest paved border crossing in the world, connecting Pakistan and China across the mighty Karakoram Range. The modern highway follows the traces of the ancient Silk Road, where clouds often drift below the pass and trucks struggle up the slopes in the thin mountain air. For half the year, the pass remains closed due to heavy snow, while border guards endure isolation in remote outposts, facing relentless winds that sweep through this unforgiving high-altitude frontier. K2, Pakistan. Rising to 8,611 meters, or about 28,251 feet. K2 is the second highest mountain on Earth and one of the most perilous challenges for climbers. Only about 300 people have ever reached its summit, while 87 have lost their lives attempting the ascent. A massive glacier, stretching 60 kilometers, or roughly 37 miles, descends from its slopes, continually reshaping the dramatic terrain below. Fierce snowstorms can trap climbers for weeks in extreme conditions. The base camp, built atop a shifting glacier, must be moved frequently, while avalanches each year alter the routes that lead toward the summit of K2. As our journey across the majestic Himalayas comes to an end, we have traveled from remote mountain villages veiled in mist to towering peaks that touch the sky and valleys stretching endlessly into the horizon. Each landscape and every story reveals a unique facet of this legendary land, where nature, faith, and humanity intertwine in a symphony of wonder. May the images and tales from this expedition inspire you to one day set foot upon these sacred heights yourself, where every breath carries the timeless beauty of the world's greatest mountains. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next adventures. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next voyage.